Nintendo's Luigi's Mansion. Just kidding. I'm not starting it that way again. One of my favorite childhood games, and one that I adore to this day, and I've been seeing get a lot more love lately, is Luigi's Mansion. The franchise consists of 3 games: the original, Dark Moon, and 3. Yeah, the naming scheme is kind of all over the place. While these games may not be for everybody, I'm still going to convince you on why you should try Luigi's Mansion. Also, real quick, please subscribe. We worked really hard on this video, and I really appreciate it. And as way too many people say, it's free, and you can always unsubscribe later. Thanks! Also, this video is sponsored by Nah, just kidding. I'm nowhere near big enough for a sponsor.
Mamma mia.
When I was younger, my dad gifted me his GameCube with a few games on it, including Super Monkey Ball, Metroid Prime, and of course, the one, the only, Pac-Man Fever. Oh yeah, Luigi's Mansion 2, I guess. Jokes aside, I love this game to death, to the point where I had already played it 20 plus times by the time I was 7. At this point, I pretty much have the game memorized. I played it so much, yet it never gets old. Of course, the game is pretty short, being about 7 hours, but for a 4-year-old to keep their attention on something for that long is insane. I delved into every crevice, every secret that I could find, and the game never ceased to amaze me. Later on, when I started watching YouTube, I found videos on the game. A world of secrets and Easter eggs I'd never seen before opened up to me. I learned about the beta, which is maybe a topic for another day, and was obsessed with one day being able to try it. Safe to say that in 2011, when Luigi's Mansion 2 was announced, I was really excited, and I desperately wanted it for next Christmas. 2012 rolled around, and it got delayed. I ended up getting Sticker Star. Life ruined. It finally came out in 2013, and I remember liking it. That's it. Nothing special. As you'll see though, that opinion has wildly changed. In the end, I still ended up longing for a sequel, coming up with ideas that were obvious ripoffs with my friends, as if I would be able to develop a AAA level game at the ripe old age of 8. I had to wait 5 years from the initial release date before a sequel was even announced, and it looked stunning. Finally, in 2019, I finally got what I had been waiting nearly half of my life for. To be perfectly honest, when I got my hands on Luigi's Mansion 3, I never finished it. Yeah, I'm sorry, I found it quite boring and uninspired, where the devs had a hard time understanding what made the other two so great. Well, I'll explain it more in a bit. I think I've spoken enough about me anyways, so we should probably move on. The story of Luigi's Mansion starts as Luigi wins a mansion in a competition that he didn't enter. Mario and Luigi have agreed to meet up outside of his mansion, and Luigi goes to it. Upon arrival, Mario isn't there. Luigi heads inside and discovers that he is nowhere to be found. After encountering a ghost, he finds Professor Egad, the funny old man who has questionable morals, who gives him the Poltergeist 3000, allowing him to catch ghosts. He's then sent to explore the mansion alone, searching for his brother. Eventually, Luigi finds ghosts more powerful than those before, called portrait ghosts. These are ghosts who have escaped from the paintings in Egad's gallery. After defeating the portrait ghosts in one area, Luigi is given access to the next area. Before he can move on, he's taken back to Egad's lab to turn the ghosts back into portraits. Near the start of Area 2, in the storage room, Luigi causes the Boos to leave their hiding place, including King Boo, the main antagonist of all 3 games. From there, the rest of the game opens up. In the end, Mario ends up defeating King Boo, and Egad builds a house for Luigi where the mansion once stood, which leads directly to the events of Dark Moon. Dark Moon picks up at Luigi's house while Luigi is asleep. Egad pops up on the TV and requests his help. Luigi doesn't have much of a choice here. It turns out that King Boo is somehow at it again, bringing chaos to the new area of Evershade Valley. Little shit pissed on, blew up, the Dark Moon, which is the only thing that prevents the ghosts in the valley from going haywire. You know, why did Egad even employ these guys as helpers, knowing full well there's literally just a rock preventing them from destroying all his work? I think he may be going senile. Anyways, your task is to explore various different missions and collect the pieces of the Dark Moon, which are stuck inside these possessor ghosts. As you probably noticed, the setup is significantly different than the first game, being much broader in scope. Outside of King Boo and his minions, none of the ghosts from the first game return. I guess they finally accepted their eternal oily prison. It's even revealed King Boo was only released because Egad sold a painting at a garage sale. Wait, he sold him the most powerful ghost that is known to be able to create whole new pockets of reality. He sold him at okay, I've heard enough. I'm putting him in an old folks home. In Luigi's Mansion 3, Luigi gets an invite to a hotel where he's invited to stay. However, things quickly take a turn for the worst as it becomes blatantly obvious that the hotel is haunted. His goal is to get to the top of the hotel and hopefully save Mario and the others who have been kidnapped. The gameplay loop of the first game is pretty simplistic. Catch ghosts, get keys, explore the mansion. It's simple, yet satisfying. You constantly have something interesting to do until the end of the game. The main objective is capturing the portrait ghost and Boos in order to reach King Boo and save Mario. Oh yeah, also this is a thing for some reason. Its simplicity allows it to be approachable for pretty much anybody. After all, I was 4 years old when I first beat it. This loop perfectly complements the game's biggest strength, the atmosphere. The atmosphere is exquisite. No, orgasmic. What? Too far? Anyways, this is really the only game in the series with this type of atmosphere. The environments look a lot more gothic and more, but not entirely, realistic, as opposed to the very exaggerated and cartoony visuals of the later games. It's hard to fully describe how it feels to experience this game's ambience with words, so honestly, you should just play it to experience it. Dark Moon is more complicated and overall a more linear experience. For starters, it's mission-based because it's a handheld game, which may be a turn-off for some, but I personally think it works for what it's aiming for, as it allows the mansions to change after each mission, creating some great variety in the environments. Your goal is to complete all the missions for a given mansion, defeat the boss at the end, and move on, with some bonus missions being thrown in there as well. The missions themselves are fairly varied with a few concepts that are repeated throughout, such as the polterpup missions, which can get a bit repetitive at times. There are also a bunch of collectible gems this time around, one set for each mansion, furthering Luigi's descent into becoming as greedy as Wario. These gems do nothing outside of giving the player a little statue of Luigi to admire. The money has also had a significant overhaul, allowing Luigi to upgrade his poltergust after getting a certain amount. Oh, and how could I forget? The poltergust. It's been completely overhauled for this game. Instead of just pointing your flashlight at ghosts to stun them, you have to use a new device called the strobe bulb, which allows Luigi to flash ghosts with a large and bright burst of light. In addition, Luigi can now utilize this charge bar that allows him to use a burst to take off a big chunk of a ghost's health. Overall, it's a bit harder to understand, but it flows quite well and it's still very beginner-friendly. 3-space gameplay is quite similar to Dark Moon's, at least mechanically and how the poltergust works, with a few new additions, namely Luigi. You go from floor to floor, trying to catch ghosts, get elevator buttons, then get to the top. That's basically it. The gems also return from Dark Moon, but this time they give you a crystal plunger when you collect them all. What the fuck? Despite the gameplay being similar to Dark Moon, 3 to me seems to not hit as hard. It seems to try to take the parts of the original game and Dark Moon and blend them together. However, these elements, in my opinion, end up mangled and nowhere near the level of quality as the games they were based on. I know this is a fairly hot take, but hear me out. For one, it tries to take the larger open area of the first game. It attempts to do this by taking away the mission system. However, it still manages to feel extremely disjointed as each floor is pretty much entirely isolated from each other, which leads into the second thing it tries to take, the varied environments of Dark Moon. 3 tries to replicate this with examples such as the desert theme floor and the jungle theme floor, but I believe they fall flat. I feel like not enough time is spent on each floor to get a feel for the atmosphere, except for maybe the movie one, and that they aren't as dynamic as their Dark Moon counterparts. The ghosts also seem pretty uninspired, some being blatant rip-offs of Dark Moon's. Most egregiously, however, is their butchering of the boss ghosts. In the first game, portrait ghosts were like mini boss ghosts with their own little small puzzle you had to solve. Each one seems meaningful, and even had their own backstory, and when it was time for an actual boss, it felt impactful. Not only were they some of the hardest encounters in the game, of course, but they had their own special arenas in this void area. And when defeated, they opened an entire section of the mansion up. In Dark Moon, boss ghosts go hard on the spectacle while also introducing interesting mechanics, such as the first boss, which is against a massive possessed spider. The whole fight plays like a puzzle, having to manage figuring out how to deal damage while also dodging attacks. It's a great example of what the game has to offer. And 3, both concepts are mashed together and half-heartedly executed. There are unique human-like ghosts again, but they are so forgettable. The only one I can really remember is the night one, but that's because he was in the trailer. And they try to make it a spectacle, but most of the time it just ends up falling fairly flat. Except for that Godzilla one, holy shit. It's a bastardization of what made the other 2 games so good. But worst of all, they changed the fucking ringtone. Despite all my bashing, there are a few things I do enjoy about this game. For one, it looks gorgeous. Like seriously, it is just how Dark Moon looks cranked up to 11. Also, I like how they changed the burst thing from Dark Moon into a slam. It's super satisfying and really makes catching ghosts that bit more fun. The other features added to the Poltergeist are also pretty cool, although I wish they were unlocked throughout the game instead of just being available at the start. And maybe some things in earlier areas would only be accessible by upgrades found later on, almost like a Metroidvania. It would really help the game feel less linear and would also make the player feel like they're actually growing more powerful. I'd recommend starting off with the first game, if you can get your hands on it. It's a one-of-a-kind masterpiece of a game that hooked me on gaming as a whole. It's only a few hours, so you don't need a massive amount of time to sink in. Unlike Atlas's, Megami... Okay, that's enough of milking that joke. If you can't get your hands on that, I'd say Dark Moon is a great game as well, just not as good as the first game. And it's split into bite-sized missions, so it can be played in little bursts quite easily. And if you can't get your hands on that, 3 is still an alright game, and I would still say to play it. After all, you may not mind the issues I have with it, but I don't think it's a good indicator of the strengths of the whole franchise. The imposter's sus?
Please help me. He's holding me hostage. He's making me edit these. Please, he'll let me go if you like, subscribe, and follow him on Twitch at twitch.tv/titaniumllama__. Please, that's just how he makes me do it. Please, just oh god.